In this episode of the No Limits podcast, I had the opportunity to sit down with Fred Boom Boom Roumbanis and Brent Ehrler, two native Californians who have had great success fishing for bass all over this country. But I'll bet you didn't know that Roumbanis is the former Chinook salmon record holder for the state of California, and that Ehrler, one of the most successful pros in history, had some growing pains on his way up. You'll find out about that and a lot more on this episode of No Limits. So you two are built different, like you're built for power, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're built for speed, it looks like. Pretty much, yeah. But did you play sports?
I did. I played football. I played inside linebacker.
What a show.
Yeah.
Weren't you also a skateboarder?
You know what's funny? Actually growing up, I wanted to be a pro snowboarder. I skateboarded, snowboarded, and BMX raced growing up. I did all that like every weekend. And here I am fishing. It's the only thing I never really got hurt doing. So.
How many bones have you broken?
Gosh, really honestly, I think I broke more than the doctor said, because I'm pretty sure I did something to my shoulders. I still can't touch my own shoulder. Snowboarding, I dropped about 45 foot onto my back.
That's your biceps.
No. I mean, like right here. Like my finger can't touch it. I don't know what the deal is, but I've broke my thumb, back, ankles, wrist. I don't know, half a dozen maybe.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but nothing compared to what some of my other friends have done. So.
Yeah. You were big into snow ski. Still big into snow ski.
Yeah. In fact, you talked about playing sports, and I didn't play sports in college, but in high school, I played football, baseball, and basketball. And I took my junior year off to go work at a ski resort. So my junior year in high school, I lived in a basement and skied every day in New Mexico. And when I came back my senior year, before I went on this trip, I would only play football for varsity. And then my senior year, I had to make the basketball team and the baseball team, as well as football, in order to graduate, with enough credits, because it counted as a pre-first class.
Really?
So if I did not make the team on one of those sports, I wouldn't have graduated high school.
Wow.
So I literally, there's a set number of credits, units that you have to graduate. Yeah. I was on the dot with the amount of units I needed. It wasn't like I was over it. So it's like the cut weight and sudden death in this thing. If the cut weight is 20 pounds, I went out with 20 pounds. I didn't go out with 21. My last fish wasn't a 2-pounder. I mean, I made it with exactly enough units. Otherwise, I wouldn't even graduate high school.
Wow,
that's crazy.
But I didn't go to school so I graduated high school in 3 years.
No kidding. I don't think I've ever heard of sports being a credit in school before.
It counted. Well, so it didn't. It was only units. So I mean, there's other things that you could have that would do that. I mean, I had all my required classes, sure. But as far as the amount of, classroom time. Now, again, sports is not a classroom time, but it counted as a pre-first course. There's first period. Well, it was a pre-first because we'd always practice in the mornings before first period. So it counted as a unit, and so I got credit for it.
Did either of you two ever think to yourself that you were going to be anything besides either a professional fisherman or some kind of, athlete or athletic pursuit?
No. I just figured something would work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really wanted to fish all along too. Since I was a little kid, I just didn't know how. I didn't know the proper steps to do it, or how you get here. But watching on TV, watching Bill dance back in the day and stuff like that, it was something I always wanted to do. I loved fishing. I always had the passion for it. But I found myself at the time really good at BMX racing, really good at skateboarding, like amongst my peers, and competitive that way. There was no competitive fishing other than me and my buddies riding our bikes to unknown destinations, probably not supposed to fish, but we'd go have our own little bank tournaments or whatnot. But the competitive side came from who got the most air on a snowboard, or whatever it was. And I just felt like one day that would work out.
Yeah. Sure, it did.
The fishing side, yeah. It's funny because we're going back to high school real quick. One of the ways for us to graduate is you had to tread water for 45 minutes. It was if you did that, you were graduating. Like, unless you had a medical reason, why not? And like the school I went to, there was like water polo was a huge sport, and Olympic water polo players came from the school I went to. So it was like, yeah. So for me, swimming was not my deal at all. Like, never took swimming classes, lessons. I mean, maybe when I was a little kid, so I didn't drown in a pool or something. But I remember treading water for 45 minutes and feel like I accomplished something so huge. And literally a couple of years later, on my 19th birthday, I sunk my bass boat and swam 45 minutes across Frank's track. So because of that class and being able to tread water, I think it helped me survive. Kind of off the subject, but kind of not really. You know? It's kind of funny. So yeah, it just brought up that memory. Like, I remember thinking, okay, this is how you do it. And they had to teach you, like, if you were ever in a situation, how to swim with somebody. And I literally had a co-angler I had to swim with. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was terrible. Lost my boat, all my rods, but saved his life and mine. So,
jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, never sunk a boat?
No, I haven't. Never sunk a boat. I've never had to swim for my life.
Yeah. So maybe I did get hurt and somehow made it in the sport, but
Broken bones?
but no broken bones. They're just cold. It was cold. Yeah. No.
You break anything? Yeah, you had to do it.
You know, actually, I never broke anything skiing. I broke my arm and my tailbone racing motocross, and then skiing. I knocked myself out one time, and I gave myself a black eye another time, and little things here and there, but I never actually broke a bone. Yeah, surprisingly. Yeah, I had some real nasty crashes that you know, I didn't break anything. There's actually one when I was living at a ski resort. We had this line through some of the trees, and I caught an edge, and it threw me head first down the hill, and I hit a tree with my shoulder, and it cartwheeled me down the rest of the slope and then hit a lift tower when it opened up into the deal.
Dang.
And I woke up. I mean, I was out cold. I woke up looking up at people just staring at me from the chairlift. And that gave me a concussion. And, you know, separate one with black eye, but, you know, nothing, never broke a bone, surprisingly.
How so in the off season? How frequently do you ski? Like, so we got winters coming up. So,
you know, it used to be a lot more. Last year I didn't. You know, last year was really, or this, you know, past season was really busy, and I was gone so much I did not get to ski that much. But if I could get out and do, you know, 10, 20 days, it'd be great. Last year I think I probably only did about 6 or 8, so not that many. But, you know, if I can get out, I have a season pass to Mammoth, so, you know, it's a 4-hour drive for me to get there, and if I can go and do that and get 20 days in a year, I'd be pretty happy.
Does Ollie ski?
Ollie does ski. He loves it.
Is he pretty good?
He's all right. Yeah. He, you know, he's gone a few times. He likes going through the park with all the little, you know, jumps and obstacles. He doesn't jump, but he goes over the stuff, and that's, he loves doing that. He doesn't like really getting out on the steeper stuff yet. You know, he likes being inside the park more.
Skis, but not
Skis, yeah.
Any reason why no snowboard? Just because you ski?
Mainly because I ski and I want to start him that way. I can't teach him how to snowboard because I ski. My wife snowboards though, but I just figured that if I was going to be the one taking him, I have to teach him how to ski because I can't tell him how to do something on a snowboard.
No.
So it is. I've never actually
the other
tried
way around,
it,
to be honest with you. Skiing seems harder to me, but
yeah.
The most sore I've ever been in my entire life was the day after I snowboarded. The only time I've ever snowboarded.
I bet.
Or will ever snowboard.
Yeah.
It was rock.
really,
Yeah. How can you not like fall all over the place on those things?
I don't know. I you know, just because I've done it, you know, I haven't been on a snowboard in 20 years, and because of an accident I had. But, you know, it to me, skateboarding was something I did every day, day in, day out. I mean, I used to ride my skateboard from East Bay, get on BART at like 10 years old and go to San Francisco by myself.
What?
Yeah, which is, I would never let my kids even do anything like that these days. But my dad was a cable car conductor, so I'd go meet up with him on the cable car. Yeah, craziest stuff we were allowed to do back then. But it just, skateboarding was just natural, you know? It's just a real natural thing. And so snowboarding came pretty naturally for me. Now skiing, I was clumsy. I couldn't, my body naturally wanted to ride regular, you know, sideways. But yeah, skiing, I've tried it a couple of times and just went right back to snowboard.
Talk a little more about that cable car conductor thing. Like, I'm pretty sure I've never heard that
Oh yeah, my dad. Yeah, he was a cable car conductor for 33 years in San Francisco, and cable car Kelly. Yeah. So we grew up in the East Bay of San Francisco, and he mostly worked night shifts, and then my mom worked during the day. So my brother and I pretty much we had a lot of time to ourselves. You know, it was fun. I enjoyed growing up like that because we just learned a lot of stuff on our own. I do miss the fact that I could have spent more time with my dad, but we always made it work. You know, when he did have a weekend off or something, we'd go out fishing. Or when he's never been bass fishing, which is weird.
No way.
He bought it like an old ski boat turned into a salmon boat, and he loved salmon fishing. He wanted to catch and eat. So that's what we did. We'd go out in the ocean, and he didn't like freshwater fish. So, so he's never, not one day did he ever go bass fishing.
Wow.
But I got seasick. So, I like to say it was because I had good balance, and that's part of the reason I get seasick. But I personally didn't really care to go out in the ocean that much. I'd rather go fish the local reservoir and try to catch a bass. And then one day I did go out and there was an El Nino that came up, which is the warm water comes up, and I remember getting on the front of the boat. I just let my brother and them, they frozen anchovies, mooching for salmon. I get on the front of the boat, and I watch an orca come up, and I said, "Oh my gosh, there's a killer whale out here." Nobody believes me to this day. I saw an orca. Next drop, I catch the state record salmon.
Shut up.
Yes, I'm telling you, it was the craziest thing. So I'm 18 years old, and I catch state record salmon, and my dad and my brother would go salmon fishing all the time together, and I refused to go because I didn't want to get seasick. And then one time I go, and I'm pretty sure my brother baited my anchovy.
Nice.
Yeah, so I caught. Yep. Yeah, I had it I got in every paper, and I got a certificate from Department of Fish and Game. It's funny how it all turned out because we didn't know it was a state record. We had a big ice chest. We gilled it, which you bleed out the salmon, and you throw the gunny sack over them, and we ran it into the smokehouse in Emeryville, which is near Berkeley. And they said, "Oh, where'd you go, Alaska?" We're like, "No, we got it out here." And they're like, "This is the biggest one we ever seen." So they had certified scale. So we had already bled this thing. It's like 4 hours, 5 hours later. And we weigh it, and at the time it weighed 47.5 pounds. So they said, "Hey, if it would be cheaper if you gut it, because we're gonna smoke. We're gonna, when we smoke it, we're gonna charge you for what you weigh right here." So we got certified scales and everything, photos and everything, and we took it back after gutting it. It was still 45 pounds. So I'm thinking about how much blood lost. So I held, and for 3-4 weeks or something like that, I had the state record. And then because it got public, someone weighed in a 52. It was the El Nino brought up, the bait got bigger and the fishes got bigger. And it's funny is a salmon like that, now it's a male, the state record river salmon was like 88 pounds, full of roe and everything else. But this is only a 3-year-old fish, the way the salmon life, I did a little study on it, and it's crazy to think that
they grow fast.
They can grow really fast out there. Yeah.
Huh.
Did you fish other species at all? I mean, have you been bass since you were a kid, or what's your background?
Yeah, I when I was a kid, it was whatever pulled the bobber under, and then got into bass fishing. Loved it, and I got into fly fishing more, but I just didn't have a lot of places to do it close to my house, and kind of went back into bass fishing, and I got into tournament bass fishing, and then when I was fishing tournaments, this was before I was on the national tour. I fished quite a few marlin tournaments as well. With a buddy of mine that I knew through bass fishing. He and his dad did it, and they asked me to come and do it. And I fished the Visby down in Cabo, I think 3 times. And went to Mazatlan a couple times and fished a bunch of them. And, they were fun, but it's saltwater fishing, especially that kind. When you're trolling for marlin for 3 days in a row and don't catch anything,
just trolling.
I hate it. It's like putting me in a duck blind or something. I start twitching. I can't sit still, But no, that was kind of the weird progression. Now I still like to saltwater fish. The tuna fishing's been really good in California the last couple of years, and I haven't gone this year, which is a bummer because it's actually still really good right now. But competitively, and my passion is obviously bass fishing.
How old were you when you picked that up? Like, when did you start this tournament?
My first tournament I was in college, and I think I was maybe a sophomore in college, and or junior. I was right around 20. I don't remember that was about my age, but I fished in a bass club, the Point Seekers Bass Club in Riverside, California. Fished with them for a year, and then the second year I was with them as I started fishing AAA in one bass, and I did that for 2 years. And then I fished as a boater in the one bass circuit, and then fished a few bass opens, and then they left, and the Everstarts came out, and I fished the Everstarts, and then the tour, and then the elites, and then here.
How old were you your rookie year then?
For the tour or for the Everstarts? The tour, I was 27, 28? 27 or 28.
You started when you were 20?
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
So 05, I started, I think it was, I probably fished tournaments for about, 5 or 6 years. Probably six or 7 years maybe before I fished the tour.
You had a pretty decent rookie year on the FLW tour. Pretty decent.
No, my rookie year I didn't.
You didn't? Was it your second year?
I made the cup. I didn't qualify for the cup my first year. I only cashed two checks my first year in 05, yeah. And then in 06 is when I qualified for the cup and then won the cup. So it was my second year. First year I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Oh man. I distinctly remember being at Ouachita River. It was my first year on tour, and I hadn't cashed a check yet. We did 2 in Florida. I'd never even fished in Florida. And I drive from my house in January. It's, really cold. And I get to Lake Okeechobee, and it's 85 degrees, and I'm catching them on top water. And cold front comes in, and the water temperature drops 20 degrees overnight, and I had no idea how to catch a fish. The whole area where I was catching them on top water was cold and wind-blown and muddy. And I'm like, what do I do? I had no idea what I was doing. I go there, don't cash a check. I finish in the hundreds. I finished 125th. Go to Toho for the next tournament, and I catch them better there, but still miss a check there. The third tournament was the Ouachita River, and it's high and flooded. And I've never fished a high and flooded lake ever in my entire life, ever. I grew up in California or the West Coast. We don't have floods out there and have bushes in the water and know what to do. And I finished in 175th place in that tournament. The next tournament was at Beaver Lake, and I hopped in my truck, the Ouachita River, and drove straight to California. And I had no idea if I was coming back. I mean, really. I was planning on it, but instead of dropping my rig off, I just drove all the way to California, regrouped, drove all the way back to Beaver Lake in Arkansas. And then I cashed a check in that tournament, and it was the first tour level event that I cashed a check in, and I finally felt good. But when I was at the Ouachita River, I'm like, man, I'm out of my league. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I'm swinging a hammer, in construction. I'm out here doing this. What am I doing? And that was my first year. I kept at it. In the second year went better, and then that's kind of when things started to change. So.
How about your experience?
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin. It's funny because I remember watching you on an invitational at Lake Mead when I was trying to figure. That had to have been back in.
That was
early 2000.
01
maybe.
I think it was probably 01 or 02.
Yeah,
Vanderkoy won.
I remember just watching that help me learn how to drop shot. Yeah,
that's funny.
So anyway, for me, I think back then when I started, it was. I grew up fishing the California Delta mostly. And most of my rods had braid on them, whether it was flipping, frogging, whatever it was. I got when braid really came out, and that was when Power Pro first hit the market. And I got good at the power fishing kind of thing, and the finesse game was weak, like really weak for me. But then I started fishing Shasta and Oroville, and really started like catching them spotted bass. So I got to learn how to do that over time. But as far as like when did it really start for me, I think, I in high school I fished I fished like 2 or 3 club events, but because I fished from the bank, I never really fished off a bass boat till I was 18 years old. So when I fished my first club tournaments was like my senior year in high school, and I remember getting out there and flipping a jig up against some brush, but the guy wanted to drag a split shot. And I'm like, what is he doing? And I was in the back of the boat, and I kept catching 3 to 4 pounders at Lake Sonoma, like whatever bush was there, and that's where I would pitch it, And I ended up second place in that deal, and I think I got big bass. The next one was at Clear Lake. So I threw a big lizard, and I caught like a 7.5 and got third place in that one in big bass. And I realized that I can't do this from the back of the boat anymore. And that was the last time I ever fished from the back of the boat.
Really?
Yeah. I rewind. The very first one, the boat broke down, so we never fished. So I did those, and that was it. I said, I'm going to, I did construction, made spinner baits for a company, just kind of hustled, worked at a tackle shop, and bought my first bass boat and fished my very first Pro-Am with a spinnerbait that I had made and finished 9th place. So that was like a huge accomplishment for me. It was a West Coast bass on the Delta, and it was funny. It was a pink and white spinnerbait with double gold willow, and I'll never forget. It was just the coolest. It was the coolest deal, and I had like 19 pounds the first day, and another limit the second day, and finished 9th. And I won $3,000. I worked all summer at tackle shop to make $3,000. So I'm thinking, okay, we got something going here, and that's when the drive really came. But with, there wasn't a whole lot of success without a ton of failure, and I think that's just the thing. I just never really accepted the failure as anything but learning. And,
when you lose, you learn.
You lose, you learn. I mean, I learned more off the bad tournaments. I mean, to this day, than the ones you do good in, because you didn't really learn anything. You just had a great event. And so it just, it's always been a learning curve. But and I know we've talked about this before, but I went down to Southern California, got a job in sales rep. And at the time, that was the first year they had the Ever Starts out west. And I remember telling the company I was working for, they weren't going to give me the time off, but Akuma Rods and Reels gave me a job. And they said, we'll give you the time off and we'll pay for half your entry fee. So I was like, well, I got a sponsorship and a new job. So I had an opportunity to fish those Ever Starts that first year, and did okay. I mean, I think I had a 9th on the Delta, but ended up making the FLW tour the following year. And that was my first time leaving California and fishing. And we went to Okeechobee, and it was the same thing. It was like I had so much fun. I actually got on a lipless crankbait bite, so the weather wasn't as critical, and I still finished like 85th out of 200. I think where they pay 50 spots back then or something. Yeah, so I was like, oh, so close. Well, the next
200 boats, right?
Yeah, the next one was not Watch. It was Chaffalai Basin, and naturally being that I grew up in the Delta and Braid was a friend of mine, I got to punching mats and immediately found some fish. Felt comfortable. I was sitting in 4th place the first day of that tournament. And I was like, wow, second event, I'm sitting 4th. The next day, major storms washed out the area. I didn't really know how to adjust. I ended up, cashing a check. I think I finished 20th in the tournament. And then really just learning curve all season, just getting my butt whooped. The very last event of that year was at Champlain, and it was one of those $200,000 tournaments. And I remember going up to Missisquoi Bay and finding lily pads and throwing a frog and just loving it. I'm like, this is the most unbelievable fishing I've ever seen in my life. Throwing frogs is something I love doing. I get up there, and I had a little creek as well. I get up there and I catch enough to do pretty good. And then the second day of the tournament before the cut, I get up there and I catch one, and it's like 30 minutes before the end of the day, and the waves are huge, and I got a 19-foot skeeter at the time, and John Murray's coming out of the reeds, and he's a good friend of mine, and he goes, dude, you got to go, we got to go. And I said, no, they're just about to bite. Well, first, before he said, he goes, what are you doing? I'm like, because I was looking under my console and everything. Well, I went to cull a fish I caught on a frog, but I left my live well open, and a 4.5 pounder jumped out of my live well and made it back in the water while I wasn't looking. So,
oh my goodness.
So I'm looking around for this fish, and John's like, "What are you doing?" Because I was a train wreck back then. I mean, it was just that was my life, right? And so I put this other, I got 4 fish now, and John's like, "Dude, we got to go." And I'm like, "Oh, they're biting." I said, "You need a frog rod?" And I catch a 4 in front of him, and I put it in the live well. I was going to offer him one of my rods. He's like, "No, we got to go." So then I catch another 4. I ended up with 18 pounds with a 1.5 pounder, which I could have had. Yeah. Over 20, and I come back in and I miss the top 10 cut by a few ounces, and because of that I finished 101 in the points, top 100 requalified. So I didn't even requalify to the FLW Tour, but I got a nice, $12,000 check or whatever it was, which helped me get back from New York with a boat with no cowling, because when I came back, I went through a wave, not over it, and it ripped the cowling off. Don't know how the motor kept running. And so I had blankets taped around my motor, go back to California. And then I got invited to go to Spain on the Euro Cup deal that year. And that was a neat deal. I was with Kelly Jordan and all those guys, and we just they were just like, oh, you should go back and fish the Northern Everstart Series. You can get back on the FLW Tour that way. And it was still like the fall bite was still there. So I went back and I signed up. Didn't have a GPS, and I just showed up to them tournaments and ended up winning one at La Crosse. That whole story, we can go into that in a whole nother detail. But it was like my last chance to really make something happen, and I won. Drove straight back to California. I had Iz Bird with me. You remember Iz? Uh-huh. The Iz rig, which is the same thing as a Demiki rig, I guess. Or not Demiki, what is it? Nico.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. We went back, dropped him off, and I went back out, and then I did good at Little Bay to Knock. I was in 4th going into the final day. I mean, it was just like things started clicking. I came back and won a boat at Shasta and a Bass Open, finished 2nd in that. It was just like I went from negative in my account to over $100,000 in 4 months, strictly off winnings. It was unbelievable, and that's what gave me the confidence. Then we went to Amistad for the very first elite tournament, because at the time I had also qualified for that, and took a 2nd place right off the get-go.
Well, then the problem with that is you lived in California, so it was actually 50,000 instead of 100,000.
Yeah, that's right. Right, taxes.
Unless you didn't pay taxes, then it was 100.
Yeah, well, luckily it was like a lot of write-off back then. Yeah, no, taxes definitely.
When was the last time either of you showed up to a fishery and you thought to yourself, I'm totally clueless about that? When was the last time? Can you remember that?
This year, sometime probably for me.
But I don't know about you, but those are my best tournaments.
Really?
Because if it's practice and if we had a couple days of practice or whatever, and all I did was eliminate, there's no reason to go back to any of it. So I just change up and go start fresh. And those the ones that I feel like I'm gonna do really good in, the fish change and I get too stubborn. I don't want to change. And, that's all a learning curve over the years. I think I'm getting a little wiser to all that. But, those are always, if I call my wife and say, hey, we got this, she's like, pack your bags, come home.
That's so true. That I think you kind of, put the perspective there on it, that the fact that when you're not on anything, you don't have any preconceived notions on what you're going to do out there. You can fish free.
Yeah.
And, the ones where you're going to do well, you're too stubborn on what they were doing. When you don't have anything going, you just kind of do something on a whim and it works or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, you try something else and maybe that works. And you're going to a tournament, the last one where you had no clue. It did happen this year. It happens every year. And for me, it was that Falls Jordan, the North Carolina one. And I felt like I was doing well on the lake where everyone smashed them the first round. And I went out and barely caught them. I mean, I was out of the cut line. And I was so worried about the other lake because I had 4 bites all day at that lake. And 2 of them were in the first 30 minutes of the day, and the other 2 were in the last 30 minutes of the day. And I had not one single bite for 14 hours of practice. So I go to start where I didn't catch them well on the first lake. I go to the second lake, and I've got one spot where I had 2 bites. It was one cast. It was a culvert. I knew that there was going to be fish there. I pull up, and there's a guy there, one of our guys.
Was it me?
No.
I was fishing a culvert.
So I run somewhere else. I just started on some random spot, and I catch a 5-pounder on that spot. And then I just started running, just fishing completely different, tied on baits in the middle of the tournament, and went and actually caught him okay, but just barely missed the cut. But based on where I was, I did move up, and I didn't think I was going to catch anything. And I caught him pretty well at that lake, and I literally thought that I was going to never have a bite.
That's
it's
crazy.
all about this one culvert. If I can get there first light, I'm going to catch one. And there was somebody there. I just ran down the lake and goes, this looked good. Pulled over and stopped. 5-pounder.
That's awesome.
First bite.
You confessed to me like 3 or 4 weeks before Red Crest that you didn't feel comfortable on that part of the Mississippi River. Like you were like, I don't like it here. you didn't say I don't like it here, but it was along the lines of that. And you're like, I just don't think I've got it figured out here. You did okay at Redcrest. I
did. You know, I fished in the Black River, and I fished differently than what people fish on there at the Mississippi River. But I enjoy it, but I've never been on one of those bites where, you know, like where Fred, you go out and catch 30 on a frog or something. I've never found a spot like that, you know, and I've never found a bank where I can go throw a swim jig and smash them there. I haven't done that. And, you know, running some of those delta, I call them the delta systems, but that Goose Island area where it's just a maze and you don't know what's up or down. You can't run because there's stumps, logs, sandbars. You have to idle through stuff, and it drives me nuts because if I don't want to fish something, it might take me 10 minutes to idle not very far to an area that does look like I can fish. And I just don't really have a feel for how to pattern them, you know, in that river system there. And actually, I thought that I would do better up on pool 7 because I like that pool better. And I figured if I could make it to that final round, I could do better because I knew that water up there better. And I was lost the whole day up there. So, you know, I still am not comfortable with that place. Now, granted, I did make the top 10, but I'm still not comfortable with it. I mean, if it shows up on the schedule next year, I'm not going to be excited about it. Because I know it's such a good fishery.
Yeah.
I just haven't, you know, tapped its true potential. And a lot of people have, and they have places where they go back repeatedly and catch them. I haven't found those areas yet.
Let's play a game of you know, let's put together a wish list. The schedule hasn't been released yet, hasn't been put out yet. What are a couple places that you would love to see on the schedule?
You know, I know it won't happen. I'm hoping it will in the future, but I'd love to go to St. Clair. It's such a great fishery. I think every record we have would be broken there. I really do, especially if we time it right. You know, there's so many 3 to 5 pound smallmouth in that place. I mean, you can literally get on a school and have a 20-pound stringer for your best 5, but you'll have well over 100 because you're catching, you know, 3 and 4 pounders all day long. But at the end of the day, you have 20, 22 pounds, but literally you threw back, you know, 20, 15, you know, pounders. So I'd love to go there and then go west. You know, I'd love to go to Clear Lake or Delta, Havasu, Mojave, whatever. I'd like to go out that way because they're really good fisheries and they're close to home. I could go back and kind of repack and, you know, finish out the rest of the season.
I'm going to guess you've got some similar wishes.
Oh, I would love to go out west. I would absolutely love to go to Delta, Clear Lake, Shasta, Oroville. I mean, any of those places. Mojave would be awesome. I've never been there, but Havasu, yeah, that'd be amazing. I would like to go to Lake Mead.
I would too.
I would really think Lake Mead would be a good one. I mean, you got the best of both worlds, gambling and fishing.
Yeah. It's a great lake. It really is. And it's just the scenery is amazing. And yeah, it would be a fun tournament for sure.
Yeah. I'd like to go up to Champlain. I just love it up there. And I'm like 50-50 on tournaments. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but I've never left Champlain upset.
Right.
So, you know, some of those places where we're so fortunate to get to travel to some of these places. I'd like that. I'd like to go down to Amistad or something, or Falcon. I mean, that would be fun.
That'd be great.
I know that those are border lakes and it might be a little iffy, but where else? Pickwick, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. A lot of big fish there.
It's the best one in the Tennessee River chain, I think.
And I'd like to go to Lake Fork, just because there's giants,
right.
And lots of them.
Yeah. Where would you not like to go?
Sabine River.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Old Hickory.
What's wrong with Old Hickory?
I just don't like it. It's
Why?
just, I don't know. I did all right one time in a PA there, but I don't know. It's like you know what? Honestly, I probably do better now that I live at Lake Darnell. And that's one I really don't want to go to just because I live there and I don't want it to be off limits for me. I mean, I don't want to be able to not be a captain for my kids' fishing youth club. And we got a lot of good things going there. So personally, I would rather us not have a tournament at Darnell ever. Although it would be a fun fishery and I'd probably excel, I just don't want to go there because I don't want that off limits in my backyard.
Yeah, I get it. So he made the commitment to move out this direction. Are you ever going to do that? Or you think you're in California until the day you die?
You know, I can't say I'd never do it, but there's more to it than wanting to be out here. I mean, believe me, I'd love to be out here. The logistics would be a lot better. But my entire family lives in California. My relatives, my parents, grandparents, in-laws, everyone are right there. If I moved out here, I don't want to take my wife and son and put them in a town and be like, here we are. By the way, I'm going to be back in 3 weeks.
That would be a tough thing.
So I can't justify taking them somewhere and dropping them off while I travel somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to leave them at home and be able to, do what I do. So, but I mean, yeah, it would be great. Like I said, the logistics would be a lot easier. But I don't see it happening anytime soon.
How long did it take you to figure out the logistics of being a West Coast-based professional basketball? Are you still figuring it out?
I think I've got a pretty good system down now. I'm just comfortable with it. Now it's, I've been doing this for 14 years now, I think. So, but it took a good 5+ years to kind of get things lined out. The thing that is a lot easier now is that I know more people between tournaments that I'm able to leave the boat with, or I now have more options for dropping the boat off. And when I say dropping the boat off, leaving it somewhere so I can fly home.
That's right. Yep.
I don't want to park my truck and boat in long-term parking. I'm fine with parking my truck there, but I don't want to leave a boat.
You're
and
always
truck
welcome
there.
to leave it at my place. So
Thank you.
Super safe.
You.
Another spot.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely, that part is easier now for sure.
Because I talked to guys like Clausen and Cody Meyer and guys who do kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have this system of places they're going to leave their boats and so forth. But it's still, even though they're flying, which would seem like it'd be easier, it's not easy at all.
Mm-mm.
It's not. You post a lot of stuff from airports, I noticed.
I do. I fly a lot. Yeah. A ton. In fact, I think I'm going to get up to platinum this year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I fly a ton, and whether it's just these, but then sponsor related things. I mean,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I only have one sponsor that's really two sponsors that are within driving distance of me. So
Yeah.
everything else I have to fly out to. So a lot of stuff. Shoot, I just did a trip where I flew out to Gunnersville and filmed one day with lure lock, and then hopped on a plane the next day and flew home. I was gone for 3 days to shoot for one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you do a lot of that.
Absolutely, for sure. When you decided to make the move, like what kind of played in all that?
Honestly, when I moved from California to Oklahoma, it was 100% my wife's family, her fault is what I was going to say. I met her in Oklahoma, and it was just a perfect location as far as being close to major interstate and middle of the country, and it just really made sense. My brother had moved back east to New York, and not that my family started splitting up, it's just we all have our own careers now, and I'm trying right now. We moved to Russellville. The problem with Oklahoma for me was I was still 45 minutes to a lake. And we were driving back, and I felt like my fishing, I wasn't on the water enough, even though I was living in a perfect part of the country. I wasn't on the water as much as I was when I was in California. We lived at, I was living with my parents at the time, but before that I was, Lake of the Pines there when they moved up there. And I was on the Delta all the time. I had a buddy who lived there, so I was always staying at his place and just fishing all the time. Oklahoma was 45 minutes and basically $100 bill every time you wanted to go fishing for sure. And we were driving back from an event, and Julie goes, "What do you think about Russellville?" Well, I've had some good tournaments there. I've had some good events there in the past. And she got online and she found this little 40-acre spread, and let's look at it. So we just got off the interstate, looked at it, and bought it. I mean, it was like I really didn't. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that was how that went down. And then we were like, "Are we going to do anything with it?" And she's like, "Yeah, we're gonna move next year." And I'm like, "Well, how?" We got to clear land. I don't know what to do. And we got it done. We built a metal building, and it's fun. And we're actually in the process of building a house right now. So, so now we'll have a neat area, same piece of land up on that ridge. And so it'll be cool. And we'll be able to do like some media stuff there, and hopefully we could do some, I'd like to do stuff with the Folds of Honor, and maybe take some the recipients fishing, and I just want to give back, at that point. So we got some opportunities there, but for me, I can pick my kids up at school, or Julie can pick them up and drop them off at dock and they're on the water fishing right after school, like after school sports. So I could fish for a couple hours if I get a call from a sponsor. Hey, I need you to do something on, top water little stick from IMA. All right, 30 minutes. I'll go out there and do something, take a picture, and send it back. So
you do realize that you have at least one child who's convinced he's going to be a bass pro.
Dude, scary.
Yeah.
Scary. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he just won, him and his team partner Jaden, back-to-back tournaments on Darnell. They had 2 fish over 5 pounds a couple days ago, and I'm like, I haven't caught a 5-pounder out there in a while, and they catch 2 of them. So, they're doing really good in their in the youth league. So, and it's fun. I mean, he catches stuff. He's really good at the finesse stuff right now, and he's starting to get good with the bladed jig and the square bill, and he's catching them on a frog now. So he's really starting to, diversify and expand his arsenal. So it's just neat to be able to watch my kid fish, and I got more excited watching him win. I did tell him, I said, look, I have fished 20 years professionally now, and I've never won back-to-back. So enjoy it, embrace it, and accept the fact that it's very rare. So
the opportunity to fish like youth league stuff that's a fairly recent development. That's within the last 10 to 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, when you were, how old is Jackson?
Jackson right now is 12.
12. When you were 10, 11, 12, you didn't necessarily have that opportunity.
No, and I really didn't even.
You just didn't.
It wasn't even like at that age for me. It wasn't even tournament fish. It was just being able to fish.
Yeah.
It's like wow.
Yeah, which means that within 10 to 15 years, you guys are still fishing competitively.
Yeah.
10 to 15. I would expect you're both.
I don't see myself quitting anytime soon. I love it. It's
it's a whole new wave of young guys.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It'll never stop now.
No.
You're going to have that wave of young guys, and then you're going to have guys that don't want to quit like us. So, I mean.
The learning curve is so much faster now, too.
It is. It really is.
The kids now, which is interesting about the new breed of fishermen, it's, you and I did it with trial and error.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
And now it's, YouTubing, researching it, or someone handing them, waypoints, go here, this is where they're going to catch them. Yeah. I mean, the first boat I had, I didn't have a GPS. We didn't know what waypoints were. The first time I fished the Delta, I used a paper map to try and find my way from where do we always launch out of the Delta.
If I showed up at an FLW late and went to the Walmart, the maps were already sold out because everybody bought them.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't buy one if you, but Delta Russo's Marina or?
Big Break.
Big Break, yep.
We launched at Big Break, and I'm going all the way to the, where's that real popular spot back in the day? Not Frank's Track. No, it's up.
Lads.
Disappointment.
Whites. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I was going to go fishing Whites, and I had no idea how to get there. So I had the map folded out to where, I'm stepping on this map, driving down this river system. I go, okay, up here I need to turn left, and then up here I need to turn right. I'm looking down, and then I get to the end of the map, and I have to get off pad, refold the map, put it back down, and go, okay, turn left, turn right, and then all of a sudden I'm there. Yeah. We didn't have GPS. And so, the learning curve is so much faster now just with technology, with, doing stuff, tutorial stuff or whatever. People watch and learn. And there's more instruction out there for guys, and so they learn so much faster.
Like 10,000% more.
It's insane. Yeah, the guys that are, in that early, just starting fishing a tour, are so far above what Fred and I were when we started. They're ahead of the game for sure.
Yeah. Also, just the ability to operate your onboard electronics. Like, so here's the thing: like, if you're in your early 20s, you have a sensibility in you already because of the fact you've had cell phones since you were a child. I mean, there were just certain things.
Yeah, when I started, I didn't have a cell phone when I started fishing. Yeah. When I had a boat and didn't have GPS, I didn't have a cell phone. Yeah, there's no way. You broke down. You broke down.
Pretty much.
You were there until someone came by. Period. Yeah. You had no choice.
Gary Yamamoto threw me his phone. But yeah, I mean, gosh, it's crazy. I had a black and white Pinpoint, I think is what I had.
I had Pinpoint.
And I'm not even sure if it had GPS on it. If it did, it didn't have any maps.
I just don't remember.
I just remember it was It was the greatest at the time.
No, I remember I did not have GPS on my first boat, and I went to Lake Paris, which is, it's only a couple thousand acres at the most. I mean, it's maybe I don't know how many acres, but it's really small. I mean, you can see the entire lake from the boat ramp. And it was foggy one morning, and I always like to fish straight across from the boat ramp on the other side. And I'm idling, and it's 45 minutes later. I'm like, I should be there by now. And finally, I see the buoy line. I'm like, oh, cool, I'm here. And I idle a little farther. I'm like, man, this looks funny. And I get up. I went in a complete 180 loop for 45 minutes all the way back to the swim beach that was right next to the boat ramp.
Oh my goodness.
And with GPS, I would have been there in 5-10 minutes. 45 minutes later, I'm 100 yards over from where I started.
Wow.
I made a big circle like that. Came right back. No GPS. There we go.
When you actually think of GPS, did you feel like you discovered the treasure at the end of the rainbow?
Yeah. Just even waypoint, you get after a couple days of practice, you forget things. You forget where you had that bite. We used to just run around the lake and go, yeah, I think I caught him over here, and you pull over and you start fishing there. You maybe you're excited about one starting spot maybe, and then based on that, you're running the day, just thinking that was the area where you caught them. Unless it's a lake you really know, or it's a small lake, it's a lot easier. But you go to the Delta. And I run up to White Slough with a paper map. Once I got there, I had areas that I wanted to fish, but then it was looking at the paper map on how to even get back to the weigh-in. So it was tricky.
That's crazy. So guys, we'll finish up today with the kind of standard podcast question. You guys know the game Jenga, right? You guys have seen the Jenga tower and so forth. So I'm going to ask you first, right?
Okay.
So if you could, Brett's this Jenga tower, and he's got all these skills. He can throw a frog pretty well. He can, do several things. If you could pull a piece out of Fred Roumbanis, and that would be yours, what would it be? What would you choose?
Oh, for sure the frog deal. Fred is known for being a frog fisherman and power fisherman, and that's something that, I throw it here and there, but I don't have the confidence in it. It's not something where I go and on any given lake do it. I will throw a frog where people throw frogs, where it's famous. It's not like I'm not going to pull out on a Highland reservoir and chuck it in the back of a pocket. That's not me. And I'd like to have more confidence in it for sure.
Same question to you. So if you could choose any of Ehrler's characteristics, what would it be?
There'd probably be about 100 pieces that your thing would collapse because I'd want to pull so many of them. But no, honestly, like your ability to make adjustments on the fly quickly, and it's almost like you never make the wrong decision. I mean, just from the outside, it's like Brent's always catching them. And to be able to pull something off later in the day where if I'm not catching them quickly, my frustration amplifies. It seems like if I could just stay calmer and like if it's practice day, it's different. Like if I go out fun fishing, I can go all day without and then figure it out in the end of the day and have fun. But in a tournament situation, it's different. He can stay calm, cool, and collected and put together something at the end and just, come back and win. And not just win by like a little bit, but by a lot. So
what's funny about that is that, I think of Fred too as being the guy that does not have any preconceived notions, that goes out there and just is catching them on a frog or a drop shot or whatever and just pull something completely out of the hat differently and go and start catching them, and that's
how they perceive it too.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's funny that he's saying that because that's what I see of him as well. So
well, hey, thank you. Maybe I'm doing all right then. That means a lot.
I made it.
Cool.
Cool. That's good. Well, Brent, I know you got to run. We're going to catch loose, but thanks for showing me.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.